Good morning, folks. How's it going? Tactard Ted here. So, this is the 21st of April, 2022. Man, April is just flying by. So, what's on my mind this morning? On my mind this morning is Gonzalo Lira. And who might be Gonzalo Lira? Because I'm sure most of you don't know the name. Gonzalo Lira was a American citizen who was born in Chilean, and he lived in Ukraine. And I became first aware of him during the early days of the conflict in Ukraine. He was staying in Kiev, and he came out and showed us that a lot of what we were seeing in the news was absolute bullshit at the time. The first week of the battle, they're showing, all this is going on. Russians are in the city. There are firefights or this or that. And he's walking down the street basically pointing out his bullshit. And basically that he was more afraid of the thugs that they had gave guns to than he was the Russians at the time. So this drew the ire of a lot of the American media, including the Daily Caller, I believe it was, who did a hit piece on him and reached out to the Zelensky government, knowing that this independent journalist was critical of the regime in Kiev, and basically drew attention to him. Now he's went missing. And a couple of the neo-Nazis in a subunit of Azov known as the Kraken, for those of you who understand what that is, I don't need to tell you, but for the rest of us, I probably ought to explain that to you. The Kraken is a hit squad. It is a special intelligence hit squad out of Azov. And you guys who don't want to accept that they're neo-Nazis, I can't help you. There's enough proof out there that they're neo-Nazis, and there are scumbags in Azov. If you wanted to take a criminal element and put all in one fucking unit, you would have to recruit them from fucking prisons. I'm serious. These people are not good folks. But anyhow, they're teasing that they have him, that they knew what happened to him or whatever. And the reports aren't looking good. It's looking like he's probably perished. And interesting thing about Gonzalo Lira is he published a posting a month or so ago with a list of names, and these were people who all were disappeared during the Zelensky regime, and they were all people who Zelensky had it out for. It says, Google these names and understand that if you don't hear from me within 12 hours for any reason, you can just assume that you can add my name to the list as one of Zelensky's people that have been disappeared. And it's been a week almost. And Gonzalo Lira, he missed a couple of talk shows that he was supposed to be on the internet, and he's come up missing. Now, I will give a little bit of options that maybe something else happened to him. I'm not absolute about shit. I'm not beating a drum on propaganda-wise here that, he's definitely dead. No, he may have got hit or definitely killed by neo-Nazis. Hell, he might have got hit in an airstrike. He was living in Kharkov, which is having the shit knocked out of it regular. So that may have happened to him. There's a lot of things that may have happened to him, but when you've got people on the internet connected with Azov who are saying, yeah, I wonder who has him. If you know who has him, raise your hand, and they're all standing around with their hands raised. The thing you folks need to know is Ukraine. Ukraine is not what you're being told. And for those of you who are watching this who claim to be conservative, shame on you. Shame on you for supporting the war in Ukraine when you are being played by the very same playbook that's been used against you. Because, very simply, every time the left and the media wants to push an agenda, the first thing they do is lie. The second thing is they get pissed off that you're calling them out for lying, and then they silence you. Basically, they deplatform you, they give you Facebook jail, they call you all sorts of dirty words, and just to shut you up. And they'll do anything to shut you up because they can't stand free speech. They can't stand anything that conflicts with their opinion. And you know that. You've seen that with Donald Trump. You've seen it with COVID. You've seen it with a number of things because you folks have seen it. You've lived it. So it becomes a little disconcerting to me that you're not learning from this. Within hours of this special military operation, as the Russians call it, a war as normal fucking people like me call it, Google, Facebook, a lot of other entities, Europe's even worse, they banned certain agencies like Sputnik and RT. Google kicked RT off. A lot of people just found it easier to watch RT's live stream on Google than it was to actually go out and go to RT.com, and it was actually a little more user-friendly, at least so I thought. And RT's government owned, absolutely. And when you get right down to it, just about every news source in the United States gets a little bit of government money. So you explain to me how the government doesn't have a little bit of control over our media. The FCC gets to say who gets to be on the air and who isn't. So if you're saying anything the government really doesn't like, the chances are they're going to find a way to take you down. And that might explain a lot of the Biden bootlicking, because the left is known to do that. Biden, who isn't able to have press conferences yet, you couldn't get Donald Trump from in front of a mic. He wanted to talk so much. Probably one of the most transparent presidents we've had. I mean, and look what a mess they've made of that. But guys, you've seen this before. You've seen it. You've had it used against you, shut you up, deplatform you, get rid of you, get you out of the way. We don't want you saying what you're saying. You might ask yourself, why did they do that with Russia? They did that with Russia because they simply don't want you to hear an opposing view, because a lot of their shit won't stand up to the scrutiny. And that was one of the problems with people like Gonzalo Lira. He's out on the streets of Kiev showing you this ain't the facts. The facts are much different. You're being lied to. And the fact is, he got a huge following very quickly. And the media can't stand it. That's one of the reasons why there was a hit piece wrote about him, and they reached out to the Ukrainians, because that's code for, hey guys, you got this guy who's ruining our shit. He's spoiling what we're reporting about you guys, and he's making us look bad. And as long as he's making us look bad, we can't make you look like the poor victims. And maybe you might want to pay this guy a visit and shut him up. And that probably is what happened, but we don't know for certain. And I'm waiting to see other people, because from what I understand, the Ukrainian government's put a bounty out on the head of Patrick Lancaster. Patrick Lancaster, he's been reporting for years what's been going on for Donbass. For you folks that aren't aware of the Ukrainian civil war, if you're not aware of the civilians murdered in Donbass, you might want to ask yourself why you haven't been allowed to see that, why the West doesn't report it. When they do report it, they call them Russian separatist or Russian proxy war. They use all these words, guarantee, that are going to make you, well, maybe I don't need to care about those people. Well, women and children, little children, are not Russian bots. They are not Russian sympathizers. These are kids, right? These are little kids that are getting artillery shells dropped on them. A kid of 6 years old, 2 months old, those kids don't have a political affiliation. They're being murdered by the fucking Ukrainian government because they exist. There's no other reason. There's no other reason to fire into civilian territory where there is no military. But yet that's what the Ukrainian government has a history of doing. And these things are being kept from you. And you might ask yourself why. It's bad enough that we have all seemed to have forgotten about Joe Biden bragging about getting a prosecutor that was looking into his son's $80,000 a month no-show job fired because Joe Biden was, when he was vice president, was willing to withhold aid that was going to Ukraine. That's really a quid pro quo. That's what they accused Trump of. Trump didn't do that, but Joe Biden brags about it. So, folks, you conservative folks, they're playing you. And Joe Biden appreciates you right now because to him, you're what the communists would have called a useful idiot. You're sitting there allowing his war to go forward, which make no mistakes. He's been pushing this. He didn't want you to know about the biolabs. He doesn't want any information coming out because I guarantee you, if and when Kiev was ever to fall, the first thing the FSB, for those of you who don't know what the FSB is, that's the modern equivalent of the KGB in the Russian Federation, will be going through every document and anything they can find that makes Joe Biden look bad, they'll be putting it out. 110%. So Joe Biden's fully invested in this war. And the sad fact is, he's made some of you folks emotionally invested. He's counting that you don't like Russia. He's counting that you somehow have never let go of the Cold War. I mean, my Lord, if I had a nickel for every time I've heard Soviet when you're trying to refer to Russia. Hey, newsflash, dude. When I joined the Army in 1984, Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union. In fact, it hadn't been that long before that the Soviet leader Leonid Brezhnev, who was born in fucking Ukraine, had died. So this whole fucking thing, you need to be able to understand that you're being lied to, that you're helping support and keep Joe Biden in power. In fact, it's just ridiculous. And Hunter's laptop, we forget about that. That's not real. Then suddenly it's real. So I think you need to be really leery about whatever comes out of Ukraine. Y'all take care. I'll be back later.